Welcome to the call, Millionaires. I'm glad you joined us again on this other Wednesday Millionaire Mindset Call. I'm your host, Johnny MindQuest Sherrod, and we're going to go ahead and jump into the meat and potatoes of this call. And those of you that just joined us and it's your first time on the call, I'm going to let you know that every week these calls are full of stories, strategies, and secrets of the super wealthy. And I want to welcome you all to Obsessed with Success Call. Right now, I'm going to move out of the way and introduce you to a phenomenal leader, a great mentor, a master marketer. I call this guy the wizard. He's one of the greatest mindset trainers of all time, self-esteem development expert, Haziq Ali. Are you on the line, sir?
Yeah, I'm here, Mr. Sherrod. Thank you very much, man. And I really appreciate you and everything that you're doing for the team and for the mission in terms of ending world poverty in these next 35 years. It's all about baby steps, and I appreciate everything that you're doing every step of the way, just like I appreciate everybody else for being here on this call this week. This is a good time for you to be text messaging your friends and family and making sure they're on the call. I haven't been able to promote the calls quite as much as I used to, and I've noticed something where a lot of people, if you don't remind them every week, then they aren't there. Well, that's on them, isn't it? But the whole thing is that it's on us to be leaders and take the lead. And that's why I applaud you guys for being here. Next week, make a promise to yourself that you're going to have 5 or 10 people that you know that needed to hear this information on the call, be it to help you grow your own business, be it to help you grow your network marketing team, be it to help you grow themselves as a person. Because as we all know, personal development is just short for personality development. And why are we all trying to craft different personalities? Why are we all trying to self-discover? It's because the moment that we do, we can attract abundance. The more that we're able to turn our personalities into that which will attract abundance, the more people we can serve. The more that we can serve, the more we can live in God's purpose for our lives. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. So today's call, we're going to focus on the 6 shortcuts to persuasion that help you grow any kind of business. The 6 shortcuts to persuasion that help you grow any kind of business. Now, there are 17 foundational principles of consumer psychology as it relates to what the scientists that study this sort of thing have discovered. We definitely don't have time to cover all of them, so I'm not even going to try. We are going to cover the 6 shortcuts to persuasion. My name is Haziq Ali. My Instagram is Haziq Ali. You spell it Haziqali. If there's any way that I can help you out, then please don't hesitate to reach out to me, because that's what I live to do. I live to serve. I personally believe the most selfish thing you can do for yourself is serve other people, and we're living that on these calls. My Facebook is Haziq Ali. The podcast is going to be called Obsessed with Success. So I'll go ahead and say that now, because a bunch of these will be loaded up on there. And, of course, if you want to call back and hear the playback for these calls while they're still available, and that's 641-715-3413, and the code is 656-202#. And then, of course, you can always put in a reference number for the call that you want. This is call number 50. We've been doing these for 50 weeks in a row now, believe it or not. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So hopefully we've given you enough time to get any of your friends and family on the call. I really applaud you guys for being here. You're rare for being here. You could be doing anything else while you're driving home. And I really honor you guys for being here. So let's get into this. Like I said, this call is going to focus on not only the 6 shortcuts to persuasion, but 6 of the other foundational principles of consumer psychology. Now, there's 17 of these. We don't have time to focus on all of them, but I figured I would run down a few of them, because every single conversation that you'll ever have in your life is an enrolling conversation, every single one. You're either going to focus on being sold to, or you're going to focus on selling. I don't care if it's getting somebody to I don't care if you're trying to get your baby to make the bed. I don't care if you're trying to ask someone out on a date. I don't care if you're trying to sell a car or craft a message for Craigslist where you can sell a chest of drawers you have or a dresser set, right? The whole point is that every single conversation that you'll ever have, someone's doing the persuading and someone's being persuaded. Well, there are 17 different principles of this that can literally change your life if you let it. If it's so easy to be convinced, then surely it's really easy to convince people. A guy that I've been listening to lately, he always talks about how if honor, trust, and integrity were enough to get people to want to come with you and buy your product, then how do con men pull off what they pull off constantly? Obviously, it has nothing to do with having your best interest at heart. It has nothing to do with integrity. It has nothing to do with whether you're telling the truth. All of these are good things to do. Never stop doing them because we know we're playing a different game. But the whole thing is that, do they necessarily help you to achieve your goal? Unfortunately, the question is no. No, they do not. So these 17 different foundational principles of consumer psychology are things which do help you to achieve that goal. And I'm not going to run through all 17 of them because there's no way we would get through them in time. But I'm going to give you a few of them. So principle number 1 would be the fear factor. I'm going to give you 7 of these. And then what I'll do is end off with the 6 shortcuts to persuasion that are just golden. But let's start with number 1, the fear factor. I call this one, you got to scare the money out of people. There are 4 steps to this, right? Did you guys know that the word halitosis was not invented in a laboratory? It was invented on Madison Avenue, where they create all of the marketing techniques for the world. Madison Avenue in New York, where all of the huge advertising agencies are. Halitosis was invented to help sell a product called Listerine, which started off as a cleaning product to help you scrub your floor, and then they accidentally found out that it had other properties. This is something that happens all the time. Like Naloxone 9, or should I say Rogaine, started off as a pimple cream. But when they saw that people's hair would grow out of the pimple, instead of it knocking the pimple off your face, hair would grow out of it, they turned it into a hair growth product, right? That's Rogaine. That's the story behind Rogaine. Well, Listerine, something similar happened, where it started off as a cleaning agent, and don't ask me who tasted it the first time and decided that it would freshen their breath. That's just like asking me who first decided we should drink cow's milk. I have no idea who the first person was, right? Some people are grateful, some people are cursing his name, but they did it, and now here we are today drinking cow's milk. Here we are today gargling with Listerine. But how they did it was they used fear. So there's a 4-step recipe for inducing fear as it relates to selling a product. So I'll share them with you guys right now. Hopefully you guys are taking notes because that's what we do on these calls. It's a really smart thing for you to be doing. So basically the 4-step recipe, now that you've determined that your product or service can genuinely alleviate a real fear-producing problem. So that's the first thing. You got to make sure that your product or service can really get rid of this thing that causes fear in people. But to make it work, there's a specific 4-ingredient recipe you must follow. 1, the fear appeal is most effective when it scares the hell out of somebody. Number 2, it offers a specific recommendation for overcoming the fear-aroused threat. So that means it has a recommendation where it's going to knock that out for you. Number 3, the recommended action is perceived as effective for reducing the threat. And then number 4, the message recipient believes that he or she can actually do this thing. Now, if you remove any of these 4 components, it's like building out your computer and leaving out the hard drive. No matter how much you want it to work, it simply will not compute. You can't just use one of them. You've got to use all 4. And the goal is not to create new fears, mind you. The goal is to tap into existing fears. That's a huge nuance to this thing. So basically, that's how you use the fear. The principle number 2 is what I call ego control. Okay, so what makes somebody want to smoke a paper tube stuffed with tobacco? It's the Marlboro Man. But what makes the Marlboro Man so effective for making you want to smoke these paper tubes filled with tobacco? Well, it's the fact that your ego identifies with it. It's not you. When you see Victoria's Secret models, ladies, and they're just, slinking around in this lingerie with their long hair and their piercing eye and their, fuzzy commercials where it looks like it's a glamour shot in the commercial, it's your ego. It's not your admiration for the directorial style, right? It's your ego. So there's a book that I read a long time ago called To Be or Not to Be Intimidated, where this guy has these 4 cornerstone principles in there that break down all these. I mean, they sound so simple, but you just never consider them in that way. This is why we love books, right? One of his was the law of reality, which basically states that reality isn't the way things could be. Reality isn't the way things should be. Reality is the way things are. But listen, so few people live by the laws of reality. Look around yourself. If they live by the laws of reality, then the Marlboro Man, you wouldn't picture the Marlboro Man when you're smoking these cigarettes. You would picture missing a lung, aging prematurely, looking crazy, right? That's what you would picture when you're smoking if you lived in reality. But because people don't, the number 2 on that list of foundational principles of consumer psychology is ego control. So how do you take advantage of this in your life? Well, what can you do to attach celebrities? What can you do to attach high-end clients that you've already served? Like if I have a security company and I want to, kind of use ego control, then maybe I say something like, why do more local bank presidents choose Fort Knox security to protect their homes than anyone else? Or why do more local jewelry store owners choose Fort Knox security to protect their homes than anyone else? Now all of a sudden I've attached myself through ego control. It's instant ego appeal. So that's how you use ego control. I hope that makes sense to everybody. The third principle is something that you call power transfer, sort of credibility by osmosis. Somebody that's really good at this is Rick Ross. When he writes a song like I Think I'm Big Meech, right? Larry Hoover, where it's like, no, he's not a corrections officer who's just really good at rapping. He's this big kingpin guy that everybody can want to aspire to be like. Or let's take it off of that and take it to cereal, right? What cereal comes to mind where it's just like it's pure, it's wholesome? Oh, Quaker Oats. Quaker Oats enjoyed excellent growth of its product ever since it first trademarked that smiling Quaker man back in 1877. 113 years later, the New England Journal of Medicine released the controversial study that disputed claims that oats and oat bran could even reduce cholesterol. Fortunately, by then, Quaker had switched to this guy, Wilford Brimley, who, like our grandparents, know a lot more than us. But the whole point is that he has this whole down-to-earth, straight talk way of talking that boosted their thing again. It boosted the virtues of these flattened oats. And then Quaker reversed a 5-year decline since that medicine study came out. So that's the whole point. Credibility by osmosis or power transfer is something that you can use for yourself. I'll tell you another genius example. There's a magazine that used to be out called Good Housekeeping. I don't know if they still have it out, but what they would issue to different products is the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval. Now, what that did for the products and services that joined with that magazine is it made it so that they would offer you a 2-year guarantee. If any product that you bought that advertised in their magazine failed on you, they'd offer you a refund. Is that an added incentive to advertise in their magazine? You got to love it. So that's how you use power transfer. What can you do to attach credibility to your product or service? What are some ways you can, one one time I went to Vegas, and there was a hypnotist show. And this guy had on his flyers the National Guild of Hypnotists, like a member of the National Guild of Hypnotists. Now, I don't know if he even invented that group, right? Which I don't suggest you doing. I'm not in favor of that. But my whole point is, when it has this official-looking logo on the flyer, all of a sudden, you kind of give them a little bit of power in your mind. Kind of amazing. Principle number 4, the bandwagon effect. Ladies and G's, you've got to give them something to jump on. Everybody's always complaining about, oh, that person just jumps on bandwagons. Well, build a bandwagon and they'll jump on yours. Human beings are social. They have a powerful psychological need to belong. Like years ago, our ancestors understood that in order to maximize their chances for survival, it was in their best interest to form groups of individuals who were like-minded. So they lived in groups, hunted in groups, protected each other in groups. Everybody had a vital role that contributed to the success of the entire tribe. When the group ate, you ate. When it slept, you slept. When it packed up and moved, you had to pack up and move. If it died, well, you get the picture. So how do you use this to sell your products? Well, there are 3 different types of groups psychologists teach us. One is the aspirational. Those are groups to which you'd like to belong. There's associative. Those are the groups that share your ideas and values. Then there's disassociative. Those are groups to which you'd never want to belong to in a million years, right? So how can you use this to make sure that you use belonging, not merits? Like, let's look at some of these and tell me if they sound familiar to you. Walgreens, the Pharmacy America Trust, right? Jif Peanut Butter. Who chooses Jif, y'all? Choosy moms. I mean, don't you want to be a choosy parent too? Eucerin. There's a skin product called Eucerin, where they're always like the #1 dermatologist recommended brand for dry skin. If we were to take it back in the past, there was this cigarette brand called Camel that actually came out talking about more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. You get the point. What can you do to show everybody that everybody who's anybody is already using this product? They're already in this group. They're already on this team. And don't you want to be on this team with us too? What can you do to do that? Just brainstorm on that when we get off the call. Just think it out. How can you use the bandwagon effect, which is a really powerful psychology need in your personal consumer, in your business, in your client, in your customer? They need this. Principle number 5, sell the future. Sell the future. Like, what's the benefit of the benefit? Like, if I'm at one of my seminars and I ask somebody, hey, so what's the purpose? What's the benefit of putting up this window sign? The audience is going to be like, oh, the sign tells people who you are. And I'm like, okay, but what's the benefit of telling people who I am? They're like, so they'll do business with you. And I'm like, true, but what's the benefit of people doing business with me? So you can sell your products, of course, right? And I'm like, okay, of course, but what's the benefit of me selling my product? And then finally, after you keep on going through it, somebody finally says that you can make money. It's like, duh. Like, come on. The purpose of the sign, the core benefit, the benefit of the benefit is that it's there to make me money. I have this thing I always tell my team, where it's like, if you're sending out a video to promote your service, to promote your team, one thing is so important for you to realize is that this video is not a video. For the one person, this video may represent the group of ambitious people that they need to hang around to change their life. For somebody else, this video may represent the public speaking skills they always wanted to have. For someone else, the video may represent paying their rent on time, catching up on their mortgage or their car insurance. My point is this: you're into what you're into, but you're wasting your time if you don't find out what the benefit of the benefit is for them. Why are you telling them about how to shoot three-pointers when they're interested in learning how to hit home runs? You're going to have a disconnect unless you use the consumer psychology angle that states you have to sell the future, their own future, to them. Benefit of the benefit, y'all. Okay, number 6, and then we're going to get into the main meat of this call. Number 6 is all about inoculation. Okay, do you know what inoculation means? Inoculation basically means that when they want to protect you from a virus, do you know what they do? What do doctors do? Maybe some of you guys are doctors. I know we've had pharmacists and pharmaceutical reps on the calls before. Well, they would be able to tell you they inject the virus into you. When they want to make you strong, they want to put your body and protect your body against it, they inject the virus into your arm. So now your body reacts as if the virus was full strength and quickly attacks and kills it. In doing so, and this is the important part, your body actually becomes stronger, resistant to that specific virus for the rest of your life. So this is inoculation theory. Sometimes I coach my team to run through a system that we call PQS3. One of the parts of the system asks the person, man, so where are you working at right now? They respond. And then you kind of say, is that your dream job? Because I got a cousin that works there, and he seems to love it. He can pick his own hours. You know, he gets to work around a lot of people. He's just a people person. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, hell no, this ain't my dream job. Well, why is this so effective? Well, the 3 steps of inoculation theory are: 1, you warn of an impending attack; 2, you make a weak attack, almost like you're for whatever that impending attack is; and then 3, that encourages a strong defense. So let's just say you and I are pastry chefs, and we work together in a bakery, and all we do is turn out the richest, fluffiest, most amazing desserts known to man, right? Now, our chocolate brand of choice is some just ill chocolate from Switzerland, right? It's like some company that's just amazing. All the prominent pastry chefs and bakers use it, right? But let's just say I just now found out that our boss wants to start using a cheaper, crappy brand. And I hope this sounds familiar to everybody. You don't have to be a chocolate chef, you know, or a pastry chef for this to make sense to you, right? Now, since our boss loves to fire people that disagree with him, I kind of need to get everybody on my team to keep him from taking on this crappy chocolate, because I really care about what it is we're baking, or I wouldn't be here, right? So what do? I need to get you to fight the chocolate war. Why do I want to risk my own job? So here's the plan. I inoculate you. So first, according to the strategy, I warn you that our boss is thinking about switching chocolate. Some might say, hey, did you hear our boss is thinking about buying this crappy form of the chocolate instead of this kind that we've been using, just so he can save a few pennies? Then what do? I can't just do all of the thinking for you. I've got to inoculate you. So what I do is I start saying, but you know what? That might be a good idea for us to use that chocolate. We could save some money, and I wonder if people would really taste the difference. You know, I bet you most of our competitors already use that. That really is going to piss you off, right? If you love what we do, if you have pride in what we do. So then I'd encourage you to mount a defense by getting you to express your own thoughts instead of keeping them to yourself. So now I'm like, so what do you think? Now, psychological testing will reveal that the more actively the recipient defends against the attack, the more vigorously he or she will defend this position that they closely hold. In other words, if I make you, instead of making you defensive, if I attack your job, if I attack where you're working right now for you, like, man, that sounds like it sucks, you're going to kind of get defensive, and you're going to attack it back, and now you're going to feel even stronger about your job because, oh, you just don't understand where I'm coming from, why I'm here. But if I start saying, man, do you love that job? Like, because my cousin just loves it. He loves being able to work nights, that he has his whole day to himself, et cetera, and so forth. Now what is I making you do? Inoculation encourages you to use critical thought to defend my position, not yours, but my real position. Because I'm just throwing out this smoke screen to make you think that I'm on the side of the. I hope this makes sense to you guys. So basically, it tricks the customer into thinking more deeply about their real standing in life. It makes them really consider their position and say to themselves, heck no, I don't love this job. Oh, no, heck no, we're not letting him buy that fake chocolate. But now, when it happens, he's already ready with his defense. I hope that makes sense. That's inoculation theory. So those are the first 6. Like I said, there's 17 of these things, and we don't have time to cover them all because you guys know I'm a stickler for getting us out of here on time. So here go the 6 shortcuts to persuasion. These things are golden. They were invented by a guy that we talked about on last week's call because he wrote the book Influence. Of course, I'm talking about Robert Cialdini. He's a PhD. And in preparing this book, The Psychology of Persuasion, he took 3 years, y'all, and went undercover performing a variety of jobs, just like Undercover Boss on one of these shows, because all he wanted to watch was influence in action. So he poses everything from a used car salesman to a telemarketer. He studied the words and behaviors that move people to comply and buy. And from this, he discovered his cues of life model to describe how people are persuaded. And it all uses these 6 general shortcuts to influence, or shortcuts to persuasion. So these cues are mental shortcuts. We call them heuristics, which you don't need to know really, but it's just fun if you want to Google this later. HEURESTICS, heuristics. Now, these shortcuts are there because a lot of times we don't have time to think, y'all. So we just, take a mental shortcut. We'll get into it in a minute, but if I see a big crowd running in one direction, I don't have time to think out what they're running from. I'm just going to start running because all these people can't be wrong, right? That's a shortcut. That's a heuristic. So these are mental shortcuts, and they're effective in many, many different situations, especially when your prospect isn't being careful or they aren't using careful, considered thought. So you use these cues when you're writing an ad. You can use these cues when you're talking. But this is the thing. Buying products takes a lot of thought, reasoning, and maybe even a little justification. So when you're using these shortcuts, maybe you can get them past that, because a lot of times people don't feel like going through all of that it takes to make a good buying decision. Now, lucky for us, whatever you're selling is a good buying decision for them. And if it's not, then you shouldn't be selling it. Find something else. But when it comes down to just breaking it all down for somebody that you're helping and babying towards their own goal, heuristics is the key. So here are the 6 clues. Comparison, which is the power of your peers. Liking, the balance theory. I like you, take my money. 3 is authority, cracking the code of credibility, right? 4 is reciprocation, which basically means what goes around, comes around. Profitably. 5 is commitment, consistency. We call that the 4 walls technique. I'll get into that in a minute. And 6 is scarcity. So that's comparison, liking, authority, reciprocation, commitment, and scarcity. Is that amazing? I hope already that's helping somebody out there. But if not, you already know what I know, that this is an amazing world we live in, and OMG, to have all of these clues right at our disposal just by using YouTube, just by using Google, just by using your library card. I don't know how our parents did it, but God bless them, because we're here now, and we've got all the above. There's no excuse to not have some knowledge that you want. So let's look at comparison. This is similar to group persuasion or similar to the bandwagon effect, right? It's an extremely potent weapon in your artillery belt. Here's the question. Everybody else is doing it. Why aren't you? It exerts a powerful effect on consumers. See, because what human psychology teaches us is that nobody likes to be left out. We're all driven by a need to belong. Therefore, if someone sees his or her friends, family, or peer group wearing a certain fashion, be it low-cut shoes or low-cut socks or True Religion or, Polo. In effect, we feel left out if we don't get it too. If we see somebody drinking a specific brand of beer, Corona, with a juicy lime, right? I don't drink, but you get what I'm saying? All of a sudden, there's enormous pressure on us to conform. Wow, everybody has the new Jordans. I need to get my life. And external. So my whole point is that as an advertiser, this is a godsend. Because if I can successfully convey the message that my product is the one that a certain group should choose, then my sales could snowball simply from creating this mindset. You might have a home meeting and just decide for the heck of it to have somebody in the meeting who's already signed up, but then you make them feel like they aren't. So then when they go and say, I'm ready to sign up now, maybe the whole room comes along. Because nobody wants to be left out, but people rarely want to take the lead. So let's move on. Cue number 2, shortcut number 2 is liking. So liking says, in effect, because you like me, you should do as I say and buy. Because you like me, you should do as I say and buy. Liking is super powerful. Have you ever seen these people that always are selling, candy bars? The next week they're selling, cookies or cakes, and just because you love them, you buy it. You ain't even going to eat the cake. Well, that's because you like them. You know what? Before I even get off comparison, there's a story that I got to share with you guys, because this doesn't just go with fashion. This just doesn't go with planting flags. I remember everybody had a flag on their car after 9/11. But there's a famous experiment that I ran down for my team that I just want to share with you guys. From this show, it was like the first version of Punk. It was called Candid Camera. Sometimes they still show the reruns on the Game Show Network, like that. But the show is hilarious, and I love it because it teaches you so much about psychology. Well, one time they were doing this experiment where the guy got on the elevator, the guy that's being pranked or punked and whatnot. He gets on the elevator, and he faces the front of the elevator. Then it goes up to the second floor. 2 people get on, and they face the back of the elevator. It goes up 2 more floors. 3 more people get on. They all face the back of the elevator. It goes up again. 2 more get on. They face the back. By the time this elevator gets up to the 10th floor, the guy that's being pranked turns around and faces the back of the elevator. So to be clear, everybody else that got on the elevator faced the back to the point where he felt like, oh, man, let me compare and contrast myself to everybody else. If they're all facing the back, I got to face the back. Is that crazy? That's how powerful social proof is. If I see all of y'all running, I'm just going to start running. And that's how life works. So make sure you use that to your advantage. Okay, cue number 2 is liking. Now, liking isn't just I like you. It could be I like how you look. That's everything from who's in the ad to the salesperson that's selling it to you, be they man or woman. If you like what they like, if you like them, if you like how they look, the chances are you're going to buy it. And then here's a certain caveat to that, right? Because of identification, a principle called identification, contrary to popular belief, men are more attracted to pictures of other men, and women are more attracted to pictures of other women. Why? Because you automatically put yourself in their shoes. So how can you use that in your business? When an ad shows a picture of a handsome, important-looking man, we identify with that person. That's how it works. Same thing with a woman. If you show a picture of a beautiful, professional-looking woman, other women are turned on by that. Other women have their buy buttons pushed because they're stepping into the shoes and identifying themselves with somebody that they like or want to be like. So that's the liking principle. The third shortcut to persuasion is authority. Now, this is a mental shortcut that's been used since the beginning of time. How many healthcare products seem to be sold by some man in a white coat who just looks like a doctor or a dentist or an optician? They did a famous experiment with this one where they had a guy in a lab coat do an experiment with people that were just sitting there in front of them, and they told them that when they pushed the command button, this man in the lab coat, no. What it was is the man in the lab coat was the one running the experiment. So he's got his clipboard. He's looking all official. And then when you get a question wrong, they have you push the button. You push the button, and what they told you is that when you push the button, it's going to send a shock to somebody that's in the other room. And it's just the way it is. It starts off mild, and then by the time you miss 10 questions, that person is going to almost be killed by this shock you're sending through their body. Just because he has the lab coat on, do you know no one bucked? No one complained as they answer question number 4 wrong and they got to push it, and the person's like, ah! You know, but then when they go to number 8, the person's like, oh, my God, you know. And then they're feeling weird. They're feeling some kind of way. But this guy does have on a lab coat, so he wouldn't be doing anything weird. I mean, he is a doctor, right? He is a dentist. So who am I to complain? Who am I to go against what it is he's telling me to do? That's the power of authority. What authority in your industry does your target market respect? What can you do? The Q is so powerful that the FCC made doctors, made these people in the ads start saying stuff like, I'm not really a doctor, but I play one on TV. And the people still bought. If that doesn't show you everything you need to know about authority, I don't know. All right, so the next one is reciprocity. Principle number 4 is reciprocity. So then, if you have good manners, if I was to ask you this in one of my workshops and I say, oh, excuse me, if someone gives you something, what do you feel like doing back? What do you feel like doing when someone gives you something? And then you might say, thank you, right? But then I say, yeah, but what do you feel like you should do? You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? Not just what do you say when someone gives you something. What do you feel compelled, just subconsciously, just because you have good home training? What do you feel compelled to do? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, give them something in return. Exactly. That's the law of reciprocity. Listen, you might move into a new neighborhood. All of a sudden, you get these coupons in the mail and say something like, oh, man, I got it. I got an even better idea. Are you a dog groomer? What would happen if you gave out a free flea and tick collar? Right? If you're a bakery, what would happen if you just gave out a sample, like a free cookie? How many times are you walking by those Chinese carryouts in the mall and they just yell at you, sample, sample, sample? They want to get your mouth watering because guess what? The reciprocation principle says that if you try this sample of this General Tso's chicken, you kind of feel some kind of way if you don't buy something. It's like, man, let me just buy a little bit of it. So you're darn right you're moving to a new neighborhood and they're going to send you a coupon for an oil change or a free pizza because you're going to go get that free pizza. You're going to bond with the owner of that company or you're going to bond with the person that rang you up. And guess what? You got to be back. Statistics prove it. If you're a karate school, give a free month of lessons. What's the person going to do? No karate after a month? If you're really good, then surely you can keep them after that. Surely you can. So y'all get what I'm saying. If you're a printer, give free photocopies. What can you do in your industry that can help you utilize this law of reciprocity? Let's hurry up. Q number 5 is commitment and consistency. Guys, I don't know how to make this clearer, right? This is one of the most powerful laws you have. Can you imagine somebody shows up on your door, they ask you first, are you against police brutality, you know, and then you say, yes, I am. I can't believe what they did to this guy or that guy. Okay, so they started off with the petition, but guess what? They keep on going with the commitment and consistency. So just imagine after that they say, okay, I only thank you very much for that, sir. Thank you for filling out this survey. Okay, we're collecting $5 so we can get walkie-talkies for the neighborhood watch. Now, how can you say no to that? I'll wait. They just boxed you in because the whole point is that if you had said no to the petition, then you're off the hook. But because you said yes, this is how you feel about life, by the time they ask you to donate, you have to, or you're a hypocrite. And nobody wants to feel like a hypocrite, even if they really are a hypocrite. They don't want to feel like one. So that's how you just use the principle of commitment or consistency to close that sale. You already closed them before you offered it. You pre-closed them with the question, because questions do what? They determine focus. Clue number 6, and this is our last one that we'll go over today. Okay, so the 6th one is scarcity. The last of Cialdini's clues, right? So you hear this all the time. One-day sale, right? Limited time only. It's very difficult to get seats here. First come, first serve. All of these make the product appear in short supply and therefore increases consumer interest. The success of this technique is apparent. Every business does it, right? But using the scarcity cue is like using a deadline. Every scarcity also suggests exclusivity, not simply limited supply. So that's a 1-2 punch if I ever heard of one. Now, in a twist of the scarcity cue, I've seen several businesses. I've seen several business consultants. And now, Ali is finally available to accept 3 more clients. But hurry, because once his client roster is full, his services won't be available for another 2 years. So if you're somebody that's looking to persuade in more of your conversations every day, I hope this helps. Those are the 6 cues. We've got about 3 minutes left on this call. Does anybody have any questions, any feedback, any criticism? Any comments or feedback? You push *6, you'll unmute yourself, and I'd love to hear your feedback and where you're from. Any comments?
There you go.
Hi, this is Wesley Riddick from North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I was listening to your theory of likeness, and I was trying to equate it with something that I have been through in my life. Does that equate to kind of like when you go to buy a car and the car salesman is trying to get you to like him, so he'll show you pictures of his children and his wife and, you know, tell you about how much money they don't have? Is that kind of something like that, like getting you to like them?
Okay. Say that one more time so I'm sure I understand you.
So when I was listening to your theory of likeness, I was trying to equate it to something I had been through in my life. And okay. I equated it to kind of when you go to buy a car and you have a car salesman, he's trying to sell his product, and he's showing you pictures of his kids and, you know, telling you about his lifestyle, trying to connect with you, trying to get you to like him. Is that kind of does that kind of equate to what you're saying? Yeah, great question. That's like an old school way of handling it, but you're absolutely right. That's what he's attempting to do, because you don't care how much somebody knows till you know how much they care. And then you can't know how much they care until you know who they are as a person. So what he's doing by showing you his kids and all of that is he's trying to take a shortcut to you caring about buying something from him because you know he's got kids to support, et cetera, and so forth. He's trying to establish rapport with you. Now, there are ways you can do it that are much more simpler than that, but that is exactly what that guy is trying to do when he does it. There are simple sentences you can say. You can, this guy, Big Al, talks about how you can just start off by stating facts we all agree with. Like the car salesman could just say, we all want to make sure that we, like if he knows you have family, because my whole thing is like you care less about me and more about yourself. So maybe I want to start off by establishing rapport by saying we all want to be able to transport our kids safely around. And then he's in his head like, this guy's freaking genius. Like, yeah, I feel that way. He automatically likes you. Or there's another way you can do it where if you're doing public speaking, what they teach you to do is enroll the whole room. And that's how you establish rapport. Hey, who in here believes in personal development? Hey, who in here never heard of it? Who in here thinks it's corny? By the time you ask those 3 questions, you've enrolled everybody. You've got everybody's attention. A third way to do it is cracking jokes, because jokes show that we both have the same sort of viewpoint about the world, and that always is good for making people like you too. one strong key to making people like you is understanding that everybody likes people that they're like. You just like things that you're alike with. So I hope that helps a little bit. Did that help?
Yes, sir, definitely. This is my first call joining, and I really appreciate it and enjoyed the lessons learned. So thank you.
Man, I appreciate you being here. I love hearing that, man. Who put you on the call? How did you hear about it?
One of my frat brothers actually put me on the call. His name is
that's
Pat Davis.
awesome, man. Yeah, man. I really appreciate you being here. That's super cool. Does anybody else have any feedback or any comments or questions?
Yeah, this is Joel from New Jersey. I got a question about power transfer.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that particular principle?
Okay, so you caught the one that we were talking about where it's like these oats that Procter & Gamble or whoever the parent company is putting out, these oats have nothing to do with the Quakers?
Yeah.
But that the Quakers, okay, or how about Proactive? Like Proactive will use Jessica Simpson or P. Diddy, and they'll be testifying to the effectiveness of Proactive?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, when Rick Ross mentions Big Meech in his songs, you're putting Rick Ross in your head right there with Larry Hoover and Big Meech, even though this dude was a corrections officer.
Right.
That's power transfer. It's basically taking something that's already powerful and then putting it right there in the same picture frame with you. And then some of that stuff transfers by osmosis. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right on.
Okay.
Does that really help, or am I not really answering the question you're asking?
No, that's a good answer. Now it's just up to me to go the extra mile and try to relate it to what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just got to take that jewel and run with that.
Okay, so what do you do? Let me hear it.
I'm a designer, so, when I'm pitching, I've got to kind of relate what I can offer to something that they already respect or know of.
Exactly. Or you get testimonials from past clients, especially if they're big dogs, or you make it clear all of the different big people that you've done work for. You show some of your past work, and then you show the effectiveness of your past work. And then their power that they gain becomes your power because you're the one that got them there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely. Great question, man.
Hey,
anybody else have any questions or feedback?
Yeah, can you touch on ego control? I'm Darnell from New Jersey.
Ego control, man, that's another one of my favorites. So ego control is kind of like sort of in the same world as power transfer, because ego control has to do with the fact that we're all in this big battle of good versus ego. And there are so many things that we do. It's ego that makes that guy buy that car he can't afford. It's ego that makes him think that he can say control a relationship that he really shouldn't still be in, be it a relationship with a person or a relationship with an emotion like addiction. You know what I mean? It's ego that makes a person stay in a casino longer than he should. So if you can find a way to sort of take advantage of that, if you can find a way to like, okay, so why would such a distinguished British automaker, right? Long before they were gobbled up by BMW and Volkswagen, of course I'm talking about Rolls-Royce, right? Why would they manipulate people with something like these ads that always show, I don't know, like, let's put it like this. Have you ever seen these full-page magazine ads where you see like a large Manhattan intersection, let's say? Now from our view, we're seeing a driver patiently waiting for the light to change, the ridiculously shiny black convertible Rolls-Royce, with this whole spirit of ecstasy on the hood. It's declaring the owner's good taste and insistence on excellence, right? Now, to the left of his car, we see another driver, about the same age, but the entire weight of the world is resting on this dude's shoulders. Because what is he in, like a Toyota or a Honda or something? But this guy pulls up beside him, and now he's squirming uncomfortably. You know what I mean? And what? It could be a Toyota, it could be a Honda, it could be a Mercedes. But when a Rolls Royce pulls up, he makes that dude feel like a crumb. That's ego control, because you don't want to feel like the guy that's the peasant. You want to feel like the guy that's powerful. And this is Rolls Royce using these techniques. What do we look like not using them? It's like match point, game over, checkmate. So that's ego control. When you see guys in their music videos, and they're flashing these cars that they don't even own, they just rented them. But all of a sudden it makes you associate the artist with opulence and luxury. That's ego control. When you see guys wearing certain brands, when you see a guy wearing a certain a Louis Vuitton pair of shoes, or when a woman sees another woman, like if Beyonce's in her video with a Celine bag. Now, maybe this woman doesn't want to work and run for miles while she's singing like Beyonce, since she's been doing it since the age of 12. Maybe the woman doesn't want to be flying from country to country in a week like Beyonce does. Maybe she doesn't want to practice 48 hours straight to get the choreography done on a video like Beyonce. But she can have a bag. So that's ego control. Oh, I'm just like Beyonce because I have the same bag as her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Anybody else? We'll take maybe a couple more. We got to watch this time a little bit. I don't want to keep y'all too long. Anybody else got anything before we get out of here? Any questions, comments, feedback?
Yeah, what was the author's name? You said the Psychology of Persuasion.
Robert Cialdini. You spell it Cialdini.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate everybody for being here. We do these every Wednesday at 5:15 p.m. And I just want to applaud you guys for being here, because it takes a special kind of person to be on a call like this. Everybody else is busy watching TV or trying to distract themselves with happy hour right about now instead of happy life, right? So you're really one of the special few. And I want to remind you guys of one of the millionaire-minded mantras, which is that not everybody's going to get rich, but anybody can get rich. And we need it, because without money, the amount you can help the world is limited to your physical presence. So I applaud you guys for being here. I applaud you guys for being here, and we'll see you next week. Millionaire Minded. Change your friends or change your friends. Peace, y'all.